Hello and welcome to Ivycreates. I am very glad you're here. Today we're going to do a state of Mississippi painting with magnolias and state flags on the front. This is a commissioned painting. I have already done this painting once before, and the person saw the painting and they asked if I would do another one for them. And of course I said yes, so that's what we are doing today. And all I'm doing right now is making an outline of the state of Mississippi. It does not have to be perfect. It can be however you want it to be, because we are going to be doing painting, and so we'll be able to cover up anything that we don't like or that we might feel is misshapen. So now the first thing I'm using is some country chalk paint, and this is like an olive green, and I'm going to kind of do this in the style of Rembrandt. If you ever see any of those Rembrandt paintings, they have a dark background and it's like lots of pretty greens or it could be a different color, but it's usually like greens and browns and things like that of a portrait. But I'm going to be doing this for the state. So I'm going to use my chalk paint, and I'm using a combination of this olive green color, like a gray flannel color, or basically an asphalt color, and a few other colors, whites and different things like that. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it, and welcome to Ivycreates. So what I'm doing right now is just going around the outline of my state, and like I said, it does not have to be in perfect detail. It's just a representation of what we're doing, and so I'm going to very haphazardly put color around and go around the outside of my state. I'm trying to mix lights and darks and just make a lot of different colors onto it, a very soothing background for the state. I do offer in the description below, there are links for you to go and check out the paints and the things that I use. So if you want to check those out, you're welcome to. I am sitting in my bay window, so that's why there's all this great light. And my co-stars today, I believe, are Lucy and Lefty, my boxers. And I don't know if my Mastiff will make an appearance. That's Tank. But anyways, the chalk paint I find to be, for some reason, it's an excellent background paint. For my acrylics or anything else that I'm putting over it. It seems to cover really, really well. And you can see I'm just adding different colors to the painting and in the background painting. Thank you. I really hope that you guys subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my videos. This summer has been quite a mess. I had COVID, my husband had COVID, and my daughter, who I just found out is pregnant, she and I had COVID together, and it's just been an experience this summer. So I hope to get back into consistency with my videos, and I'm doing a lot more paintings right now because I do have requests for paintings. And I'm a floral designer as well, so we've just been inundated with funerals and stuff, so I've worked a lot more at the flower shop than I normally would for all the crazy funerals we've had. I am on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and we are dealing with all that's going on right now. That's all I can say. We have a lot of funerals, and we have Ida and Hurricane Ida and all of that business. So it's just been a lot this summer. And I'm glad you're here and you've stuck with me and you're still watching. And so now I am doing the center of my Mississippi, the actual Mississippi state, and I'm going to be doing that in a gray color, like a battleship gray almost. just to set it apart from my greenish background. I did put a few little browns and different things like that into my background. I added some basic brown acrylics. I usually prefer to use like a burnt umber in that and just mix it. It does not have to be fancy. But for my Mississippi, it is going to be one flat color. It's going to be this gray color, and it is Chalk Country Finishes paint. And they're a little small company, and I've been very happy to work with them. They're very good with their customer service. So check them out and check out my links below. So I'm just trying to, now of course this video is very much sped up, so you know, trying to make it as fast as possible, because this was a long painting. Again, when I paint things, a lot of times I have a tendency, I've got to do start to finish, I've got to get through it, and as you can see now, the paint has dried. I lined one side with black, and the other where the blue is, it's a bright blue paint. And all I did was I wanted to represent all the water that is surrounding Mississippi. So we have, of course, the Mississippi River, we have the Pearl River down on the bottom, and then we have the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So now I'm using a soft white pastel pencil, and I'm going to draw in my magnolias that are going to go over the top of the state. In Mississippi, the magnolia tree is our state tree, and the magnolia flower is our state flower. So that is why I'm using this large magnolia. I will admit something to you that I didn't quite plan on. The magnolias that I drew on this particular painting were larger than the ones I did on my last painting, and you can see I'm referring to my last painting on my phone. That's what I'm looking at. So in the end, I actually posted pictures of both paintings at the very end, so you can see the differences between the two. And the thing about that is, I know consistency is key amongst people, but when it comes to art, I never do anything the same way twice. I try as hard as I can, but when I'm doing an original something, it's never going to be the same way twice. And that is, I would say, artist discretion, the same as I do flowers when they say designer choice. It's the way it is. It's part of being creative. So these magnolias came out much larger than I expected, which is perfectly fine. Both paintings came out quite well. I was very pleased with them. And so now you can see, and I'm just referring back to the other painting. So you can see I'm just drawing it in with this white pastel pencil, and I've yet to find another one because I really like that pencil. It's really awesome. It writes almost like chalk, and if you hate whatever you've drawn, you can just wipe it off pretty easily or cover it up with paint pretty easily. It's really helpful to have that thing. And I don't know where it is right now because I would love to tell you what it is, but it's by Master's Touch, and it is a soft pastel pencil, and it's white. And let's see, I do have other like white colored pencils and stuff, but that one is my favorite. You can see my puppy dogs in and out every now and then, coming to aggravate me, to ask me to take them outside. They don't like it when I sit down and do work. They really get upset. They're like, but you're home and we need you to take us outside, and we don't like it. You're not paying attention to us. It's always good to have a picture to paint by if you can. Of course, my first painting, I just did it from out of my head, so to speak. And someone had requested that, they said, I want the biggest state of Mississippi you can paint me, and I want some magnolias or something. And so this is what I came up with. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is start color blocking in some of the color. We're not doing any specific details so much. I'm just doing the center parts of my magnolias, and I'm just putting yellow. And you will notice oftentimes that I will use a color where I don't intend it to be in the final. But if it's on my paintbrush and I want to just mark some things out, I'll do that. Like I'm marking the buds right now and the stem, just so you can see them. That does not mean that in the end they're going to be yellow. I go back and I add the right colors and the different things that will make it look more realistic. And of course, my paintings in general are not true realism. I tend to be a little bit more abstract than most painters. So I wanted to draw this in with paint so that you could actually see what I was doing. Because I know the pencil works great, but you can't really see it. So leave me messages below. Tell me what you think you would like me to see me paint next, or to make next. I can make many things, and in fact I do have some other videos coming up pretty soon with some cotton ball angels that you might like to see. I've also done I did a really pretty sunflower painting that I loved, and that's in another video that I have, and I'll be putting some of those links here in, you'll see in the top of the screen. So now I've just got some basic burnt umber brown, and I'm just going over some of the leaves and stems and areas that I need to go over. So the idea is to have two big magnolias that are fully open, and then to have quite a few buds and quite a few leaves. And I'll tell you, I have a little gem magnolia, which is a dwarf, and it blooms longer than any other magnolia around. And then I have a big giant magnolia tree in my front yard also, and the blooms just smell so lovely when they're blooming. Unfortunately, with magnolias, they only last a couple of days, and they're not real friendly about being picked. They turn brown almost instantly, and they're like, don't touch me. So kind of remind me of a gardenia. Don't touch me, I'll turn brown. So magnolias, it'd be great if they lasted for a long time and we could use them in the floral industry, but not the case. They're one of those like a hibiscus. Now what you just saw me doing, I know looked kind of strange, but I was actually taking my paintbrush, dipping it in my water, and then adding a little bit of water to my paint pots. If you've been watching, you'll know I prefer to mix my paint in paint pots, because that way I have less waste, and that way I can mix my own colors as well. I'm using the Americana acrylic paints now on top of the chalk paint that I'd painted earlier, and it makes it really crisp when I do that. So I just mix the different ones in my paint pot, and I'm going over the petals right now, just to get an idea of where everything is going to be. Before I edited this painting probably took me about 4 or 5 hours, and that's off and on because sometimes you do have to stop and let everything dry, which fortunately that's why I use acrylics, because I love to let it dry in between. When I was using oils, it was I don't have the patience for oils. Let's just go there. I do not have the patience. If I should decide that I need to float some paint like an oil paint does, that's the thing. Oil paints, you can blend longer and do all that kind of stuff, but there are so many mediums now with acrylic paints, and so many different kinds like the chalk paint and all the different types of acrylic paints that there's no reason to use oils at all anymore. And besides that, you can get much brighter colors. So in the end, once I get finished painting everything, I will seal this with a matte clear finish, and that will also add more depth to the paint. Now you can see I'm just pulling shapes. It's not hard. It's just I referenced a picture that I had already painted, and I'm just pulling shapes out so that you can see what I'm going to be painting. The longest part for me is blending and coming up with the final parts and the details. That is just, it's a really long process, but you can, you know, get everything started and get it ready. And now you can see the actual forms of the magnolias. And I'm going to start on the leaves with a little bit of brown and then into some green as well. I love the olive green colors, so I tend to use that a lot. I don't ever use bright Kelly green or anything like that, but it's usually a little bit more olive. Now you can see how big the magnolias are that I put on this, on the state of Mississippi. And like I'd said earlier, I really didn't intend for them to be quite this big, but this stuff happens. And it came out beautiful, so I was okay. It is important to turn your paintings around. I paint on a flat surface. I don't like to paint standing up because I can't, I don't know, it just is not stable in my opinion. So I paint on a flat surface or a slightly slanted surface. And I do turn my canvases around because changing the perspective of how you're looking at something always gives you, it makes it look like your, oh God, I can't think of the word, proportions. It makes your proportions correct. If you turn something around and the proportions look off, that's where it'll really show. So that's the why you turn your canvas around, besides the fact I can't reach the whole darn thing, but it helps with seeing if something's out of proportion. It will show more if you turn it around upside down. So now I'm going to come in with some dark purple, and this is just basically an underpainting technique so that the gray and the green underneath won't show as much. And also I wanted to make this my shadowy areas. So there are going to be many colors that will go over this, but this is a dark purple just to give you an idea of where the shadows are going to be. If you have any questions or comments or anything, please leave it below. And go down and look at the description and see if there's anything in there you want to see. Click on my Amazon links, or just go to my website, which is ivycreates.com. And you can ask any questions that you want to in the comments below. A magnolia leaf is kind of like a little cup. It's got a cup to each leaf, and the pollen and the everything kind of falls into the cups, so it makes it like it's just super pretty. And they curve up and they round up on the flower. Now, the white I'm going over this with is one of the Chalk Country finishes, and it's got the chalk paint, the white chalk paint. So it's super bright. That is the one thing I really do love about my chalk paints, is they have a richness of color that you can't get any other way. Now you can see I'm adding water to this just to thin it down just a touch. And I'm going to start going in with my shadows to soften the shadows. I challenge you as painters. I saw something one time that I was just fascinated with, and I always love it when somebody can bring out the creativity in someone else. And that's part of our mission goal, is to find your gifts as well as, to show our own. So if you're painting something, try to do it without using black as a shadow or black as a darkener. Use other colors. Like, you could see this really dark purple that I'd used in to make my shadows, and because honestly most of those shadows and stuff are not really black. They've got color to them. So I challenge you to not use black in a painting when you're doing it sometime. Try it and see how you like it, and let me know with a comment. And now I'm adding a little bit of yellow because, like I said, the pollen kind of drops into the leaves and leaves little yellow areas that are real pretty, because the center of the magnolia is very bright. I once had an art teacher, and I have never forgotten. It was in middle school, and she gave each of us students a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper she had just scribbled a few lines, and she was like, here, make some art out of this. And we were to take whatever she had written on the piece of paper and make something out of it. And so me, as far as being a painter and stuff, I drew a boat because it was very easy for me to draw a big boat. And I've never forgotten that lesson, is to do different things to spark your own creativity and to make you think about it. And that is the thing with doing art. It's kind of like gardening. It involves most all of your senses, and it keeps your brain really active. So it's a good thing. Now you can see I've added more pinks into this, and I'll go back and soften those colors as well. I know you're thinking, well, why add such a dark bright pink if you're just going to go back over it with white? Because some areas do show through, and you can still see the dark purple in some areas, and you can see the other colors. And some areas are still going to show through, and it gives it more depth. It adds to it. And also, because I'm using chalk paints, another fine thing about them, which you can do with most paints, but chalk paint especially, if I wanted to break out a sanding block and sand it down a little bit, the highs and the lows of where my paint is would definitely pull out other colors that are painted underneath. And y'all believe me when I say I use paint till the very last drop. So I do thin it down with water a lot of times. I use different things. Sometimes I might use like a glaze in it to make it run longer and not dry so quickly. Sometimes I'll add anything to paint. I mean anything. I might add spackling paste. You just never know. So again, I took the time to let the paint dry a bit so I could add a little bit more of a different color and not have it all smushing together and mixing of colors. So I wanted to give it just a little bit. So now what I'm doing is some of my secret ingredients that I like to do in paintings. And one of them is I have the Royal Gold Folk Art paint, acrylic paint. And I love to add that where I can, especially over a bright yellow or something like that. It just kind of catches your eye when you walk by it. And another thing that I love to do, and y'all are going to think I'm nuts, but I add a lot of glow-in-the-dark paint to my paintings. But I can't do that until after I have completely sprayed it with a sealer, because glow-in-the-dark paint, of course, will not work if it's under a sealer. I painted like my daughter wanted a post-apocalyptic city type scape, because she's a gamer, and I had all these windows in these buildings and stuff, so I went and painted all the windows with the glow-in-the-dark stuff, so when she shut her lights out, it still looked like the city was there. It's just fun, something you don't have to tell anybody you're doing, but it's just a fun thing to do. So the color that I am using is, it's got yellow with mostly the gold. And it's a pretty gold, that's why I like it. It's a rich gold. If you like this video and you enjoy what you've seen, please subscribe and click that notification bell so that you can not miss out on my next video. I would love to know what state you're from and what is something that is very prevalent in your state. What would you have painted over your state? And y'all, there is no real formula to how you've got to paint. Just paint it until you like it. And that is, I'm sorry to say, but that is the way that I paint. I paint it until I like it. And that's how I know when it's done, is when I like it. And that's how you should know when your painting is done. You don't have to be perfect with anything. Just try it. And in fact, a lot of times I will sit with a painting or a project or whatever I'm doing. I might sit with it for a month or two before I decide if I'm actually finished. Or, I'd have to live with it a little while just to be able to release it and let it go. Because when you do something that you put your heart into, a lot of times it's like your child and you don't really want to let it go so much. So oftentimes I will hang stuff on the wall and let it sit there for a minute so I can enjoy it and feel it and know if I want to go any further or change anything in it. Because I never feel like I'm 100% the minute that I'm done. I like to go back and review and look at it and admire my own work as well. You got to do that, you got to take time to admire your own work because you work hard on it. You'll notice the difference when at the end you see the pictures of the two paintings. because one of the paintings has the flags down at the bottom and one has the flags up at the top. And what that's about is these are our two state flags. This past year, our governor changed our state flag without a vote from the people. So we actually have the flag that he chose, and we have the flag that has been our flag for the last 100 years. Now the details, these flags are small, and the details that you put in the flags, like the stars and everything else, they don't have to be exact. I used to find myself a lot being upset because I couldn't get it quite perfect, but now I understand it's just overall effect. It doesn't have to be exact. So instead of a star, being that it's so small, it just ends up looking like a little dot of white. It's not, you don't have to make it perfect and super tiny like that. I would never be able to do that. My hands wouldn't let me do that. So it's just, like I said, you don't have to get mugged down or bogged down in all of the details. Just do the best you can on that. And the overall effect is what you're going for. Thank you again so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. I'm glad you spent your time with me today, and I hope that you will in the future. Now you can see there's a little dot of yellow. I do go back and I fix that on my state. And the center of this flag on the left is got a magnolia in the center, and basically I tried really hard to do it, and as close as I could possibly get. So this is what our final product looks like, and I hope that you've enjoyed this video. And I'll show you the other one. The other one is also, there we go, right there. And that has the flags up top. Hi, did you click that subscribe button and the notification bell? Well, if you don't hit that notification bell, you will miss out on our Thursday videos. So please go ahead, click it, and you'll be able to watch our videos that are coming up.